great good morning, everyone. It is a beautiful, Tuesday, February 17th, year of our Lord, 20 and 26. It's Mardi Gras. This is the Bob Cordaro Show, and I am he. Broadcasting today from the United States of America, the place where the brave, like the veterans we've lost this year, but salute today, like Captain Robert Latham, from this area, but he passed away at age 32 while on active duty at Fort Bragg. John Kohanitz, Dixon City. William Freeman, Mountaintop. Joseph Rosar, Scranton. Thomas Roberts, Deltona, Florida, but he was from Hanover area. Peter Altavella, Burlington. Our great veterans today. We celebrate their lives while lamenting their passing, thanks to John Basiliga and the Basiliga Group. The United States of America, founded with a certain knowledge and understanding by our incredible, irreplaceable, amazing founding fathers, because they knew that government is not, should not be, cannot be our parent, our guide, our direction, our salvation. Not any of these things. But the government should be nothing more than a necessary evil we require to organize and protect society. The United States of America, the country where, for the first time in human history, freedom was declared to be an unalienable right granted to each individual by God. Freedom couldn't be parceled out to groups. It couldn't be controlled by government or government officials, because our great American Constitution ensures and codifies freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of association, economic freedom, and freedom of the press, no matter how they abuse that freedom. You know why? Because we're free to ignore them. Now, armed with these freedoms, and only because they had them, a ragtag bunch of immigrants, rejects, and their progeny who made up this great country created the richest, most powerful, most culturally diverse and accepting nation ever to grace our planet Earth. America, the only place specifically invented and designed so that every American can live their life in the manner they choose, unlimited by their background, upbringing, race, color, or creed, unhindered by the government or those who would use government to control others for their own comfort, benefit, or power. This Bob Cordaro Show, well, it'll always be convincingly conservative, lovingly logical, proudly and passionately patriotic, and reliably right. And so, as my Bacardo Jewelers watch tells me, it is 9:14 and change. We gavel to order this meeting of the Club for Common Sense, assuring you that our commitment to common sense will provide a sanctuary of sanity for all of you in a world where so many, the politically correct, the entire leadership of the Democrat Party have gone insane. Now, we'll be here. We'll be here holding it down for all of you. So, Jesse Jackson died. I don't have anything prepared for him. I met him a couple of times. Once, my friend Brian Kelly, who you hear on this show now and then, as a legal advisor, we were at Penn Law School together, and we went to see Jesse Jackson somewhere on the campus. And we were probably the only two conservatives in the room. But I've got to tell you, Jesse was, he was the original blackmailer of, saying, oh, if you don't do the DEI stuff, which it wasn't even called that when he started it, and he was shaking down big investment banks and that kind of thing for his various programs, and then got caught using that money with his to pay for to pay off, and I guess to have an abortion for his one of his a girlfriend of his. So I mean, there was some smarm associated with him, In fact, he was at the assassination of Martin Luther King, and he went around with the bloody coat for days. Now, maybe out of true sentiment. But I will tell you this. The both times that I met him, he was very likable. Like, I liked him. He looked like a big football player, but he was a man's man. I mean, I don't know, I liked him. Didn't agree with anything that he said. And of course, he started the left-wing lurch of the Democrat Party. And they resisted him at the time. There were normal people in charge. But I think he resisted it at the end himself, that it had gone too far. And then you had just complete charlatans like Al Sharpton. I didn't name them, all the race hucksters. But Jesse Jackson, we are sorry for his passing, and he certainly contributed to the body politic and all of that. Interesting stuff. In fact, we got a call. Andrew from Jersey. Andrew, we only got about a minute, but fire away on our Jesse Jackson, as long as I'm on the subject.
It was Michael Savage Nation, that said it best. What you're saying, he phrased it as from Martin Luther King to Jesse Jackson, and went from I have a dream to I have a scheme. My dad almost...
That's actually pretty darn good.
Plus my
that's
dad
good, yeah. But I mean,
like
you can't put him on the level of charlatans, today's race baiters like the Squad and the rest of those fools, or Al Sharpton. But yeah, that's a good one.
Also, what I just saw on the news report was that not only Trump Tower did he open free of charge for the Rainbow Coalition, but Trump also donated a building that was on Wall Street.
Yeah. Because
Jesse, which I agree with, wanted to start a black financial black Wall Street.
Oh, no, he did some good. There's no doubt about it. And I again, a very engaging, in person, very engaging. And I used to have a great Jesse Jackson invitation. I'm not going to torture everybody with that. I used to answer questions at Penn Law School. I used to answer then the professor wouldn't know. I was answering questions as Jesse Jackson.
You had a better experience. My father, for a short time, was a union president in AFL-CIO in Newark, and it was mostly a black constituency. And my father's was white, and he was in the back. And apparently, my dad said that Jesse Jackson used the term "the White Devils," the White Devils. So my dad.
He also called New York City Hymietown. Yeah, I mean,
right.
But I got to tell you. I almost like him because of that. He was
right.
He was willing to be unfiltered. He was willing to be unscripted, which was again, he wasn't a complete fake.
And I see it. The downfall, though, is the leftist, like you were saying, policies. Because look at when Martin Luther King was leading, you had an out-of-wedlock birth rate lower than the whites, like 9 or 10%. And then the liberals took over, and it skyrocketed to almost 70%. And the school systems, they blocked school choice, and they just degraded. So I see his policies as detrimental, but you don't want to say everything is bad. And also for Obama, he kind of paved the way. And ironically, Trump financed Jesse Jackson's campaign.
But Trump liked him.
And even though he didn't win,
Trump
he got
liked
the ball
Jesse a lot.
rolling.
I'm actually curious what the word out of the White House will be regarding his passing. Trump worked with him and liked him.
He was nice. You could see the tweet, the social post. It was long and, nice and personable about he was a good person that loved all the people, that kind of stuff. Things you're saying.
Yeah.
He was outgoing and good-natured.
He really was. I slapped him on the back at the airport. I said, Jesse, remember me, which of course he wouldn't. But it's conceivable he would because there's only two conservatives at his, at about 1,000 person auditorium, and we went up and talked to him afterwards. But I slapped him on the back, and he took it very like a guy, you know. He was just a good guy, but
He didn't refer to you as the White Devil or a
well,
White Devil.
I don't, maybe because I don't even care if I'm white, but that might have been it. Andrew, thank you, my man. We've got to take a break. Bob Cordaro, WILK. We lost Robert Duvall. We've got some things about some clips from his amazing career. And I got to tell you, it was hard finding them, and I've got a couple I've got to sneak in somehow. We also we heard that great recitation. I mean, a great speech, a defining speech at the Munich Security Conference by Marco Rubio. And then we have a little cut of the fool, the shallow, vapid fool, AOC, at the same conference. We'll take a break and be back. Elvis. Murph says this date, 1960, he received a gold record for his first album, Elvis Presley. Spent 10 weeks at #1 on the album charts. That means people were going to Joe Nardone's Gallery of Sound, Ralph's Record City in Scranton, and buying the record. It was also the first million-selling album of the rock genre. Blue Suede Shoes from that. And when you play an oldie like that, you go immediately to another oldie, Shadow Steel, Rusty Fender, man of many names. How are you, Rusty?
How are you, Bob? How's things? Good morning.
I'm great. Well, guys, Saturday, Valentine's Day, yes, I took Cutie to a Terra 519. But before that, I met with my old friend, Rusty Fender, and we did an interview for his great series and podcast. And he tells me there was already 700 views on it in the first 48 hours of its release. Tell us, Shadow, or well, do I say Shadow Steel, Rusty Fender? Which name do you want me to use?
You can call whatever you want me to call.
You can call me Ray. You can call me Jay. All that. Well, it was a pleasure being with you, and it was fun talking about the radio industry. It really was.
Here's the deal, Bob. And I'm not trying to come off as, a know-it-all, but people who do podcasts, most of them should not. Because it's all about what they had for breakfast or what they did yesterday at the grocery store just to get some hits and just to get some views. First of all, I don't need any publicity, but people have been telling me for years to do a podcast, and they said, no way. Only if I could guarantee a very interesting topic with an equally as interesting person. And that's why these topics with Steve Corbett about 60s music, about the author Daniel J. Packer, who wrote the already sold-out book in 2 months on the Globe Store and Scranton Oppenheim's Scranton Dry.
Well, that book I got to see. I got to see that podcast. I didn't know about that one.
It's already sold out. It's sold out, and it's sold out on Amazon, Barnes & Noble. It's second printing in 60 days. That's got to be a record. Charlie Buffalino, on his book coming out in late April, he's going to do the podcast with me only on the Mafia crime family and the disappearance and whereabouts of Jimmy Hoffa. Ryan Leckie, who started his own pre- and post-production house. It's got to be an interesting topic, Bob, and you certainly fit the bill, and it was a real pleasure. 700 views, Bob. That's just on one site. Now, it's on 9 sites, and it's on a YouTube channel under Saturday Night Live at the Oldies. Spell it out. Saturday Night Live at the Oldies. It's on the Shadow Steel, Rusty Fender, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Facebook, and Instagram sites. Right now, we're figuring, Bob, we're over 2,000 views in less than 24 hours. Man, I should have placed my bets on you.
Well, and I said, we've got to talk. It was fun to do. You are probing. You're interested in the subjects that you explore. It's a great podcast. I saw the Steve Corbett one. I did not see the other one regarding the Globe store. Oh, I love that store. My gosh.
We kept it non-political, and I think that's the deal. I think everybody wants to be political. If you want to be political, just turn the TV on. In 10 seconds, you're going to get something political. I want to keep this non-political with interesting topics, from the Globe store to 1960s music to Bob Cordaro, owner of a radio station cluster, Lackawanna County commissioner, to talk about just some of the things, your work with the Basiliga Hospitality Group, the Veterans Banner. I mean, the one topic alone can cover an entire program, let alone an hour. So we squeezed a lot of content into 58 minutes, Bobby.
Well, all right. So, again, tell the people where they can find this.
Right. Any of the 7 Shadow Steel or Rusty Fender Facebook sites, it's right posted to the page. If you want to go to YouTube, that's great. It's Saturday Night Live at the Oldies, the Saturday Night Live at the Oldies podcast. It is also on there. And it's also a link on LinkedIn. That's the professional business site. LinkedIn, Snapchat, Instagram, as I said, Facebook. And again, the links are on there. But if you go to any of the sites, the actual program is right on there for you to view as well. 700 views, less than 48 hours just on the one site. Bob, you're a kicker, boy.
Rusty Fender, thank you. So Shadow Steel, Saturday Night Live at the Oldies. Look it up. You'll find it, mine, but his other great podcasts as well. And it's a continuing series. Thank you, my friend. Always a pleasure.
Hey, thanks for taking time out on this very busy news day. Thank you, Bobby.
All right, my man. We've got to take a break. Bob Cordaro, WILK. We're going to come back. We have a special veterans tribute to a veteran we lost in 2021, and his dad's going to talk to us. We'll be talking about Captain Robert Latham after this. Our Veterans Tribute this hour and every hour, this day and every day. Brought to you by our man, John Basiliga, and his great Serenity Care personal care community. 4 locations in the Mid-Valley of Lackawanna County in Jessup, Old Forge, Wyoming, and Kingston. Dementia care units at the Jessup, Mid-Valley, and Kingston locations. All 4 of these facilities have been completely renovated inside and out. They're accepting new residents. For you or for a family member, it is the class of senior care in Northeast Pennsylvania. John has a passion for providing the highest quality senior care in this area and beautiful personal care homes for seniors to live in. Serenity Care. Our veteran this hour, we lost him on active duty January 28th, 2021. Captain Robert Latham, one of our own. He passed away after suffering a medical emergency at Fort Bragg while training for the Army Ranger test. He grew up in Bethlehem and Shepton. He was a 2008 Liberty High School graduate. He earned his degree in military science from DeSales University and participated in ROTC through Lehigh University. He went on to serve as military police officer in Germany and later as an explosive ordnance disposal officer during the global war on terrorism. He was one of 5 children on active duty at one time from one family. He was in the military for 7 years and rose to the rank of captain. He was respected. He was dedicated. He lived a life of service. He was just 32 when we lost him on that sad day in 2021. Joining us, his dad, Roger Latham. Mr.
Yes.
Latham, thank you so much for calling in and participating with us. I appreciate it. Our friend Joe Martin, friend of the program, putting us together.
Awesome guy. Worked with him for 25 years.
Yeah, you worked with him in the prison system, right?
Yes.
All right, well, talk to me. Tell me about your son, Robert Latham.
All right, Robert, he was a good kid, outgoing, always wanted to be the best. Always. Very, very outspoken. He's little on the cocky side, always was.
That's the way we love our soldiers.
Right. No matter what he did, he always wanted to win.
Yeah.
And like I say, he was 18. He wasn't sure what he was going to do. He joined the service and wound up being married in the service, had 2 kids. And his first 7 years in the service, he was enlisted. And like I was telling you earlier, he went to he got orders to go to Germany, sent his family over. He went over. He was at a gate in Germany as an MP, a sergeant, and a colonel from the States seen him there and asked Robert if he wanted to be a general, needed a driver, but he had to go to Afghanistan for a year. So he wasn't sure what he wanted to do, talked to his family, sent his family back to the States, and then he went over to Afghanistan for a year with the general.
Wow.
As time he wound up getting a Bronze Star over there. Something happened.
So he was in it. He was in the soup over there.
Right. Yeah, he was in some kind of stuff going on there, and he was getting it out. And the general, he talked to the general, and the general was like, "What are you going to do, Rob? What are you going to do in life if you get out?" And Robert, I wasn't sure. And the general offered him it was called a Blue Gold Scholarship. You give up your time that you were in the Army as an enlisted. You get out. That's when he went to college for 4 years, ROTC program. But the key is you have to pass, and then you have to go back in and serve another 6 years of military.
Mm-hmm.
That was the catch. So he did. He came home, got out, came home, went in, got back in, went back in as first lieutenant. And then he got, for second lieutenant, then got promoted to first lieutenant. Then he wound up getting captain, and they sent him to Fort Benning to take over a command in a company as a captain after he got promoted. And then that's when he was there, the colonels there wanted him to go to Ranger School. So that's where he started training for Ranger School, and that's one day on a 5-mile rucksack timed course. He went out on a Thursday, and he was supposed to go to school on Sunday. That following Sunday, leave and start school on Monday, and he wound up having a heart failure on a track early that morning.
I can't even imagine how tragic that must have been for you.
Right. He had his phone. He dialed 911, and it was a maintenance guy actually seen him because it was all like 10 o'clock in the morning. And there was really nobody out.
Yeah.
But Robert, he wanted to do the best. So he wanted to get one more run in, I guess. And he, whatever happened, the end of that 5-mile road mark run he was doing, they tried everything, but he didn't make it.
My gosh. So you mentioned you had 5 of your children
I had
on
four,
active duty at one time.
At one time, they were all and they actually, my son that's still in the service at Fort Bragg, they would have been stationed together at Fort Bragg, but my other son Matthew was still overseas in Afghanistan waiting to come home. But before he came home, Robert passed away.
Roger Latham, were you military?
I was in for 7 years myself.
Okay, so they had direct inspiration to do this. Those five of
Yeah,
your children.
They talk. Right. Yeah. My son Nick was in the service. My son Matthew, who's still in. I have my oldest son Roger. He did 8 years in the Army. He was 82nd Airborne.
Wow.
My son Matthew is going on 16 years. He's a first sergeant now. He did his whole career 82nd Airborne. And my daughter Jessica, she did 7 years. She was in the Army. She was an MP, and she made rank and got out. And then my son Nick was in the Navy. Did 7 years in the Navy, but he was detached his whole career to the Marines. He was a corpsman, and he wound up getting a Bronze Star in Afghanistan when he went over. He's seen a lot of action with the Marines. He wound up saving a sergeant major with 38 years in. He stepped on one of those landmines, and they came under fire on some kind of patrol, and they call it corpsman. They call him corpsman. And they call it corpsman up. He had to go, and when he got there, both his legs were blown off.
Oh.
He put tourniquets on with other guys, and they saved his life. And that was his story, my son Nick.
Gosh.
But all of them, all in 5 of them, Raj, Matt, Robert, Nick, and my daughter Jessica were all on active duty at the same time.
I mean, this is what the country's built on. This is unbelievable. And a father who's a veteran. This is unbelievable. It really is incredible.
Yeah, I was proud of them all for going in. Yep. I was glad they went. I told them all, I said, you'll know if it's time to stay in or get out in the military. You get to a point where sometimes, depending on what you do in the military, it's time to get out. But all of them did 7 to 8 years. And like I said, Robert had two daughters. At the time when he passed, they were 6 and 10 when they passed. So
sad to have lost him so young, so vital at age 32.
Right. He was a machine. He absolutely was. He could have been in Muscle magazine. He was. I mean, he was getting a little older. To go to Ranger School, he was going to be 32. So I think he was a little nervous. So I think he just pushed himself a little bit too hard. Just as a dad, my opinion, because I knew how he was, and I think he just. I don't know. There's other things they say about what could have happened. That with at the time they were doing the shots, for COVID and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So they don't know if they, but they did the autopsy and everything came back normal. Nothing that annoying except for the heart, was overexerted.
Well, Roger Latham, thank you for your service. Thank you for giving us 5 kids who served this country as well for extended period. And I can't tell you how much I appreciate you coming on the program today.
Yeah, I was a little nervous about it, but Joe's a great guy, and I really love Joe, and he was excellent to work with for all the years I worked with him.
Yeah, well, I thank Joe Martin for bringing us together. He's always works with the veterans. Thank you so much, Mr. Latham. My honor,
Absolutely.
My pleasure to talk about your family. We may have to do it again regarding son Nick in particular.
Yeah, son Nick was he did a lot while he was in definitely seen a lot of action.
Amen. Thank you, sir.
Yep.
Our honor.
Okay, you got it.
All right. This
Appreciate
Veterans
it. Thank
Tribute.
you very much for having me on.
Thank you.
Okay.
To Robert,
Bye-bye.
the late Captain Robert Latham, and all 5 Latham children who served us in our military, brought to you by John Basiliga and Serenity Care, the personal care community, the gold standard for senior care in Northeast PA. Oh, that means how do you go to the weather's so unimportant, frankly, after this. Talking to Mr. Latham about his family, that is inspiring. It's awesome. But something else that's awesome in its own way is Montage Mountain that brings us the weather report and Storm Tracker 16 forecast from meteorologist Joe Snedeker. Montage Mountain means weather, and the weather means Montage Mountain. Today, clouds and breaks of sun. Chance of a flurry in the northern tier, high 48. Tonight, cloudy, low 35. Wednesday, cloudy with rain showers, possibly mixed with snow in spots, 45 degrees. Thursday, partly sunny, 45 degrees. So a bit of a warm-up. And point of personal privilege, Cutie's brother-in-law, Paul Wylam, attorney Paul Wylam, his dad died, Paul Wylam. And he was a Marine. I'll be going to his funeral at St. Anne's after we wrap on the show. So special blessings for Paul Wylam, former Marine. We'll take a break and be back. This hour brought to you by Tina Morocco, Global Sales Advisor at Premier Sotheby's International in Naples, Florida. She means Southwest Florida. That's where if you any curiosity, get in touch with her. MoroccoTina@gmail.com or TinaMorocco.com. MURACCO. We love her. She'll be on a little bit later today. Couple of texts I want to. Oh, that by the way, that's the Kinks. This date, 1965. Murph tells us they released their hit, "Tired of Waiting for You." Good song, huh? Navy. Bulldog, do you have the AOC thing? Because Navy guy reminded me of it. Do you have that ready? All right, play it when you're ready. Just play it. My God. What research? Here's a Miss America candidate, very similar. They want her to run for president. She wants to be president of the United States. By the way, she wasn't walking down the street and this was asked of her. She invited herself to the same Munich security conference that we played the clip of Marco Rubio. She invited herself to be on a panel. She was there to answer these very questions. We've played clips regarding the Middle East before from her. This is today's Democrat Party. It is insanity. Pure, unadulterated insanity. My gosh. Hey, we've got Karen on the line. She's telling us about, just as we finish the hour, petition signing event, excuse me, at Arcaro and Gel tonight.
Yes, Bobby, good morning.
Oh,
How
it's
are
not.
you?
It says Karen. What did Bulldog wrote it down wrong?
It's Karen Clifford. How are you?
Okay, it is Karen. Good.
Yeah,
it
it really is the Karen.
There, we got it. Not a Karen, a Karen. A real Karen.
Just a Karen. A real Karen.
How are you, Karen Clifford?
I'm good, thank you. How about yourself?
Good. Tell us about this. It's a nice event, isn't it?
It is. Absolutely. The Republicans just had the petitions are being signed this evening down at Arcaro's in Old Forge. We have the pleasure of having our next governor, Stacey Garrity, going to be there.
Nice.
We have our congressman, Rob Bresnahan, going to be there. I did hear in the out that somehow Senator Brown is going to be there also, and they're going to be there between 4:30 and 5 this evening. The event actually starts at 4 o'clock. The doors open at 4, I should say. And there's going to be all kinds of good food that will be available. So we really appreciate Republicans coming down to sign the petitions.
Nice. Because I remember running as a Republican candidate, you had to search them down, Republicans in Lackawanna County.
So we're trying to make this easy for them. We have some good food. Who doesn't like our Caro's Pizza?
Oh, the best.
And the best, exactly. And there'll be some more food there also. But the most important part will be Republicans getting together, supporting Republicans, and signing the petitions.
But
and if
it's
any
a big
Republican
deal.
is running
Stacey
out there,
Garrity, Rob Bresnahan, Senator Brown, that's pretty good crowd, pretty good lineup.
Absolutely. And that's how important northeastern Pennsylvania is.
Yeah. Well,
we're going to be here.
Great.
We're going to be there for you.
All right. So 4 o'clock, doors open at our Caro and Janelle Old Forge. And you could come down if you're a Republican. Well, you can come if you're a Democrat and hang around. But if you're a Republican, come down and sign those petitions. We need that.
Right. And if you're a candidate in the Republican Party running, please bring your petitions down. We'll happily get them signed for you.
Because it all started today. And it's a nice way to spend Mardi Gras.
Exactly. I said the same thing. And now I have to figure out about getting my ashes tomorrow.
There you go. Thank you. Thank you very much. Tonight, our Caro and Janelle starting at 4:30. Some great candidates will be there. Some great potential and future candidates will be there. So be there or be square. Thanks, Karen Clifford.
Terrific.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Have a good day.
All right, my dear. We'll take a break because my Bacardo Jewelers watch tells me it's 10:02 and change. That means we're late for the news. So let's do that, and then we'll come back. We got John Perillo, Monday Musings on a Tuesday. Great good morning, everyone. It is a beautiful Tuesday, February 17, Mardi Gras, year of our Lord 20 and 26. This is the Bob Cordaro Show. I am he, and it's a big day to fight for America, defend our values, and with the help of our man, John Basiliga, and his great Serenity Care, personal care community, honor the brave who have made us and kept us free. People like veterans we've lost, but celebrate today thanks to John, like William Freeman, Mountaintop, Joseph Rosar, Scranton, Thomas Roberts, late of Florida, but he was from Hanover, Peter Altavella, Burlington Township, and Captain Robert Latham. He was from Shepton. So with history, our great founding fathers, and the incomparable Constitution of the United States of America as our guides, let us continue today's battle, gaveling back to order this meeting of the Club for Common Sense, promising you that our commitment to common sense will provide a sanctuary of sanity for all of you in a world where the media, academia, nonprofits, foundations, public unions, and their leaders have all gone, and the Democrat Party have all gone insane, completely insane. So when I think of them, I've got to think of something amazing, something great, and that's Mother Teresa. I don't want to forget her for today. She says for February 17th, St. Teresa, when Jesus was dying on the cross, he said, "I thirst." Jesus is thirsting for our love, and this is the thirst we all have, rich and poor alike. We all thirst for the love of others, that they go out of their way to avoid harming us and do good to us. This is the meaning of true love, to give until it hurts. And she certainly did. Mother Teresa, St. Teresa for today. Thank you so much, Mary Regina, for sending that in. Well, it's Tuesday. Don't get confused here. But it's time for Monday Musings on a Tuesday. And here he is, without fail, our man, John Perillo. How are you, John?
I'm good, and again, you put me on after Mother Teresa, so that's keeping the bar where that up there. Okay, I appreciate that.
Yeah, none of us could. The bar is set that high for us to reach for. That doesn't mean we can achieve it, but we'll try.
And I think it actually, believe it or not, I actually think about that. You know, you got to be very careful what you say because, like you said, I mean, that's what we should be reaching for. And I just real quick, also, you know, we talk about our vets and we should. But we also need to recognize what those families of veterans go through. And I wanted to thank you for your interview with Mr. Latham.
What an amazing family. I'm so happy to have run across. We have a good friend of the show, Joe Martin, who sends me obituaries regularly and told me about the young man who passed away going training for Rangers. And I just said, and I did not know that 5 of his kids were active duty at one time.
Yeah, and that's amazing stuff. But
veteran himself too, an 8-year veteran himself.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Absolutely, it was amazing. And a couple of weeks ago, we'd covered the Tower of Babel story and how social media was helping tear down our common stories, our trust, and the strength of our institutions. And then we covered Orwell and how he feared that socialism in the 1930s Britain was driving fascism. And in that essay, we discussed how lots of people use the term fascism without really knowing what it means. And the fact is that people like to compare everything to Nazis, which is the height of laziness, along the lines of Nazis are bad and I don't like X, therefore X is a Nazi. And we followed that with Luigiism, which in my ongoing soapbox is only by the grace of our Judeo-Christian beliefs that we don't live under barbarism. And there was a reason for that progression of musings. And it is that while we are certainly not a fascist country, there are some global historic trends out there that we should be paying attention to, because that's the reason why we study history in the first place. And always remember that the best analogies or the best comparisons aren't perfect. You know, this that we're looking at today isn't exactly like that happened in the past, but the fact that they are perfectly analogous doesn't mean we shouldn't try to learn from them. And a guy I sometimes follow named Rod Dreher had an essay on Robert Kaplan, whose latest book was called Wasteland, The World in Permanent Crisis. And he made some points that I thought were important to share. And Kaplan's thesis is that the world is not unlike Weimar Republic in Germany right before the Nazis came to power, and that the world is now so connected that the fall of one part would be a global problem because boundaries mean much less than they used to. And the first lesson of the collapse of the Weimar Republic, which led to the rise of Nazis in Germany, and the collapse of pre-Bolshevik Russia, which created the Soviet Union, is that these things can happen. And one of the fascinating things about history is that if this tiny thing happens or this tiny thing doesn't happen, the entire course of history gets changed. If Lenin, one guy, had never been sent from Switzerland to Russia by the Germans, if his train had derailed, hypothetically, the entire history of Europe and Asia would be vastly different. And knowing that should make us pay close attention to the stuff that's going on around us. And one of the big lessons of the collapse of the German Weimar Republic was that it was the lack of institutional and political order, Dreher's words, but also words you've heard me use in the Tower of Babel segment, that created the conditions for the rise of the Nazi Party. Now Germany went the way of fascism, but they could just have easily gone the way of communism. There was a very large communist movement in Germany at the time. Lenin, that human virus that spawned Soviet communism, was sent from Germany to Russia by way of Switzerland. And as we discussed in our piece on Orwell, that at the extremes, both left and right are pretty similar in methods and outcomes, even if the guiding philosophies behind them are very, very different. Well, that means we should be asking, what was the Weimar Republic and Tsarist Russia like that created the conditions for the rise of both authoritarian revolutions? And a couple of things spring to mind, beginning with the fact that the people at the time had come to believe that peace and increasing standards of living were permanent conditions, like maybe the end of history. And then there's the tendency in both Germany and Russia to embrace the most extreme revolutionary ideas. And Kaplan quotes one of my favorite writers, Solzhenitsyn. And as I read this quote, please think about our world today and our past musings. Quote, for a long time now, it has been dangerous to stand in the way of revolution and risk-free to assist it. Those who have renounced all traditional Russian values, the revolutionary horde, the locusts from the abyss, vilify and blaspheme, and no one dares challenge them. A left-wing newspaper can print the most subversive of articles, the left-wing speaker can deliver the most incendiary of speeches, but just try pointing out the dangers of such utterances, and the whole leftist camp will raise a howl of denunciation, end quote. Now, he says leftist here because he's talking about Russia, but because we study history, we know that the very same thing was happening at about the same time in Germany with the right wing. Right? Let me explain. If you remember our Plato saw democracy as inevitably leading to totalitarianism because the rich would vote to keep their wealth and the poor would vote to take the wealth of the rich, and no matter who won, the result would be tyranny. So at almost the same time that Russia was in a revolution to redistribute the wealth of the czars and to seize land on behalf of the peasants, President Paul von Hindenburg in Germany was being pressed by the wealthy right there to use Hitler as a way to end democracy because they felt they could keep Hitler on a tight leash and use him to keep the unruly masses at bay. And in both cases, right and left, precisely as Plato predicted, totalitarianism won. Now, we normally only hear the end of this quote by John Adams, but the longer quote is pretty important. Says Adams, "We have no government armed with power capable of contending with human passions unbridled by morality and religion. Avarice, ambition, revenge, or gallantry would break the strongest cords of our Constitution as a whale goes through a net. Our Constitution is designed only for a moral and religious people. It is wholly inadequate for any other." Okay, so remember, again, back to last week's piece on Luigiism. Think about what that represents. It is the embodiment of precisely human passions not restrained by either morality or religion. It's exactly what Adams feared. Once that individual control is lost, Kaplan points out that order only exists if it's imposed. Right? Does that look like anything we're seeing in the news today? And listen to how people speak, right? We can't wait. We can't follow the process by any means necessary. So-and-so is the end of the republic. If we lose this election, it's all over. You pick the unrestrained language. It's already out there. But in the absence of morality and without an adherence to process, how else do you get order? And the first thing that any citizen wants of their government is order, because life is dangerous without it. And then there's this gem of a quote from Kaplan that is, quote, self-righteousness that lies at the heart of the worst tyrannies, the belief that your opponent can be destroyed because they are, in your eyes, fundamentally illegitimate. This is what the vast anarchy across the whole of Russia finally wrought, end quote. The Russian Tsar was, if you think about it, illegitimate in the eyes of the Bolshevik left, and he was an incompetent thief of the people's wealth. Meanwhile, just a couple hundred miles to the west, the aristocracy was ready to destroy the German government by using Hitler to crush democracy because they believed he could free them from the suffering that World War I had brought in Germany. Well, in those cases, since the rules didn't work and the Tsar in Russia or the democracy in Germany were truly evil, then that justified bending a couple of rules, right? And I'm simplifying a bit here because this could be a semester-long university course, but the larger point is still pretty valid, right? It's worth looking at how this happens psychologically. And in our Judeo-Christian tradition, the gravest of sins, since we have Mother Teresa before this, is pride. And the greatest of virtues is humility, because those two together are prerequisites to treating people with the individual God-given dignity that they have, which neither extreme recognize, as well as questioning the certainty of your own personal beliefs. Well, if there is no religion, if I am right because I know that I am, then you who disagree with me aren't just disagreeing with me, you're the other. And then Luigiism makes perfect sense. And Dreyer points out that, as I've said, all analogies are imperfect. We haven't just survived a world war. We have a long history of a representative government. We're not coming out of a depression. All those things that existed before in the Weimar German Republic. But as absurd as the rise of the Nazi Party or the Bolshevik Revolution might seem to us today, there are plenty of things we used to consider completely insane that are now completely normal, right? And the National Socialist Party, the Nazis, were on the verge of collapse several times before they came to power. The point is that you never know, right? Meanwhile, we're watching in real time the collapse of a once important and mostly serious, it's pretty left-leaning paper in the Washington Post. And here's Kaplan talking about the rise of fascism, quote, such a palpable decline from one group to another, despite individual variations, was related to a decay in the culture of public life, especially the media, in which the forces acting upon all of these men had become more divisive, intolerant, and even hysterical at times, end quote. Right? So the First Amendment freedoms of both religion and free speech were written because our founders felt that a free and skeptical press was essential to our existence in our country. And because I'm old and senile, I can't remember exactly who said it, but one of the founders said something along the lines of that if he had to choose between a society with a free and open press and no government, or a society with government but without a free and open press, he'd take the press and no government. And as the press has become less serious, so have our leaders. And this is a global problem. Now imagine a world like that, but add AI out there to maximize clicks, as we discussed in our piece on the Tower of Babel, and by creating a dump-on culture that rewards the most extremes on either end. Right? Now, this is a very important topic, and I don't want to overstay Bob's very generous welcome, on this particular topic, so we can get back to this, God willing, next week. But I think it's enough to ponder what we're seeing here. Spend some time noodling on this piece if you can, and maybe we'll pick up where we left off next week.
All right, my man. Thank you. John Perillo. Monday Musings on a Tuesday. You hear the quotes, John, and you say they're contemporary.
They are. They are.
Crazy,
and again,
crazy.
Bob, thank you for lending me your audience, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your week.
All right, my friend. Thank you. We'll take a break. We'll be back. It's the Bob Cordaro Show. second scene from The Godfather, Robert Duvall. One of my favorites. I never saw the Beach Boys in concert, but I did see local band Ralph play this song just as well. But Murph tells us this date, 1966, the Beach Boys started recording their hit Good Vibrations. Outstanding. And a couple of Duvall pieces from The Godfather. Awesome. 1 and 2, by the way. Well, 2 and then 1. What a great actor. I got to meet him up at the University of Rochester. He was on an alumni homecoming weekend speaker and literally almost ran into him with my kids. Just a nice man. A good man. He was what he is. And we're going to play more of those quotes throughout the morning because I loved him. I absolutely loved him. Bulldog, what do we got next? Veterans Tribute. I guess we went late, so I guess we've got to take a break and go to the Veterans Tribute. But let's hear from our great sponsors. We'll do that, and then we'll come back. Another Veterans Tribute brought to you by our friend John Basiliga. Staff Sergeant Barry Sadler received 2 gold records for the song The Ballad of the Green Beret and the album of the same name. This date, 1966, Murph tells us, and we'll use it for the backdrop for this hour's tribute to our veterans. Brought to you by John Basiliga and Serenity Care, a personal care community with 4 locations: Mid-Valley, that's Jessup, Old Forge, Wyoming, Kingston. Dementia care services and units at the Jessup, Mid-Valley, and the Kingston locations. You got to see these places completely renovated inside and out, accepting new residents, family member, yourself. Because John Basiliga's passion for providing the highest quality senior care and beautiful personal care homes for seniors to live in has been achieved by Serenity Care. William Freeman. We lost him January 21st this year. He was 85. He was from Mountaintop. Born in Wilkes-Barre. He attended Newark, New Jersey schools. He was a career Marine, serving with the United States Marine Corps, first enlisting in 1957 at the age of 17. Bill was a Vietnam combat veteran. He received the Combat Action Ribbon, the Vietnam Campaign Medal, the Vietnam Service Medal, and astonishingly, 4 Purple Hearts for wounds received in action. Upon his honorable discharge with the rank of Master's Sergeant, he became a corrections officer at SCI Frackville, serving us for a further 18 years. Avid reader. He's survived by his wife of 45 years, Suzanne, his son, his granddaughter, and many other family members. 4 Purple Hearts, William Freeman. Joseph Rosar. We lost him January 6th. He was 76. He was from Scranton. Born in that city, proud to be a lifelong resident of the city he loved. Graduate of the great Scranton Technical High School, which laid the foundation for a life dedicated to service and community. He proudly served this country as a member of the U.S. Navy. Then he embarked upon a career as a firefighter with the city of Scranton. For decades, he served with honor and bravery before retiring from the Scranton Fire Department, Engine Company Number 10 on East Mountain, his neighborhood. A devoted Roman Catholic, his life after retirement was filled with joy and adventure, sometimes with his longtime partner, Roberta Baker. He loved his Sunday outings, and he loved coffee with friends like Bill Boughton. He's survived by his 3 children, a granddaughter, and special thanks to the Brogans, his neighbors, who always looked out for him. Navy man and firefighter Joseph Rosar. Our great veterans this hour, brought to you by John Basiliga and the Serenity Care Personal Care Community. Storm Tracker 16 forecast meteorologist Joe Snetter, brought to you faithfully by our friends who mean weather. Montage Mountain Resorts. They've got so many events going on there. Last weekend was just awesome. The tent, the fire pit, the skiing, the snowboarding. Oh, fabulous. And more to come. And this is the week to do it. It's almost like spring skiing. Well, Joe tells us today, clouds and breaks of sun, chance of a flurry in the northern tier, about 48 degrees. 40 degrees outside the studios right now. Tonight, cloudy down to 35. Wednesday, clouds with rain showers, possibly mixed with snow in spots, 45 degrees. Thursday, partly sunny, 45 degrees again. And that's your weather, brought to you by the people who mean weather and the place for winter weather fun, Montage Mountain Resorts. Man, how great is that? Robert Duvall. He's still with us, even though we lost him. Otis Redding. Speaking of legacies, between our veterans and Duvall, Murph tells us this date, 1968. And doesn't Murph make the show happen? The late Otis Redding, song released after he passed and still moving up the charts on this date in 68. Went from number 28 to number 6, that incredible song. Bob Cordaro back with you on WILK. Just a couple of texts. I apologize. I haven't been able to get to them. And by the way, we got Rick Bigelow on Iwo Jima coming up after the 11 o'clock. Rich McHale says, Bob, wanted to thank you for using your platform to help bring common sense to the electorate, whether you're on one side or the other. We don't survive unless we use common sense. Amen to that. He says, I want to remind all your... Oh, he wants to remind all the listening audience to vote for me as favorite radio personality in that Times Leader thing. Yeah, you vote and... I just don't want to embarrass myself there. You know, I didn't even know it was happening, but I'm up there and with some great people, so the popular people. So if you get a chance to vote on the Times Leader poll, favorite radio personalities, feel free. I'd love it. Anyways, a Navy guy had said to us, and that's what brought me to play the AOC clip, which, by the way, she's now bitching to the New York Times that they overlooked her substance. You heard her response to the question. She has zero substance. It's all flash, all flare, all bullspit. The Navy guy says, after listening to AOC, I'm not so certain that women will be able to vote. No, women aren't as dumb as her. Not very few. Democrat women, yeah. There's not much we can do about them. Somebody else texted, Bob, the Democrat Party's platform based on lies and deception on virtually every issue. Yes, it is. Isn't that sad? They can't tell you what they actually believe in, or they have to lie about it. Listener continues. For example, they don't want voter ID because the Democrats want to steal the vote. No different than the stolen valor, Biden, Banner, and Greenridge. Joe Biden did not serve. He is not a veteran, but they just don't care. That is why we must demand voter ID, no matter what happens with the courts. I'm with you, 100%. Fred Duckman pointing this out. And another great part that Duvall played. He was Major Burns in the movie version of MASH, which is a great movie with Donald Sutherland and Elliot Gould. Great actor. Yeah. And by the way, my favorite Duvall movie, Wrestling with Ernest Hemingway. I love you to check it out. Wrestling with Ernest Hemingway. Awesome. By the way, somebody texted in, meet first female governor-elect in Pennsylvania history, Stacey Garrity, our great state treasurer, retired colonel from the Army, highest vote getter in Pennsylvania state history when she won the PA state treasurer seat. She served 30 years in the Army Reserve, deploying 3 times during the Gulf and Iraq wars, and earning the nickname the Angel of the Desert. She retired as a colonel in 2016. And Stacey Garrity will be at our Caro and Janelle's tonight. Love her. We'll take a break and be back. James Taylor. Murph says he made his television debut on the Johnny Cash Show on ABC. This date, 1971. He performed his first hit, Fire and Rain. Biden Bannergate, day 64. Stolen valor. Initiated and executed by the Green Ridge Neighborhood Association, who put Joe Biden on a hometown hero banner designed, meant for, and that should only contain veterans who served this country. Take the hometown hero banner down. Biden 64. And ladies and gentlemen of the Green Ridge Neighborhood Association, you can embarrass yourself all you want associating with this slime ball, this worst president in history, but do not debase our veterans. Put any kind of banner up, not hometown heroes. Biden banner, day 64. So Robert Duvall, his body of work, Mark Mayer texted in. He says, don't forget about the great Santini and the Apostle. And John Perillo texted. He said, oh, that quote, which we just had, just awesome. And it brought tears to my eyes every time I hear it, of our guy was from Secondhand Lions. He's with Michael Caine in the scene and some young punks who he straightens out. Unbelievable. And Steve's on from Lake Area regarding Duvall movie, The Apostle. How are you, Steve?
Doing well. Did you ever see the movie?
No, I didn't. And Mark Mayer just sent me a the trailer for it, and I'm going to have to watch it. I have to.
He couldn't get the funding, so he funded this movie himself. He wrote it, he directed it, and he acted in it. And, oh my, what an awesome, really great.
What's it about, Steve? What's it about?
Well, he's a preacher.
Okay.
I really wouldn't want to get into it. Farrah Fawcett stars in it as his wife, and he gets into a predicament, a legal matter.
Yeah. I gotta watch it. Doesn't he have really the most diverse body of work? He could play a white collar guy. He played lawyers. He played cowboys. He played ruffians. He played military. Unbelievable.
Yeah. He played a cop in Falling Down, and I think it was
awesome. He was a detective in Falling Down. Then he also played in Colors, if you remember, L.A. Cop. I forgot about that one.
That was a good one too.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, he was just one of the best, one of my favorites.
I don't know what his politics were, one way or the other, but he didn't shove them down our throats. I know that. He did his job, and I don't know. And I saw many interviews with him, and he was just a neat guy. He was just a good guy. And by the way, universally lauded by anybody who worked with him.
Yeah.
Well, you and Mark Mayer have me wanting to watch the Apostle, and I'm going to have to do that. I appreciate it, Steve.
You will not be disappointed. That was one of the most awesome movies. It really was.
Did you ever see Wrestling Ernest Hemingway?
No, I did not.
Oh, see it. And then he plays a Cuban barber.
Oh, wow.
Oh, it's unbelievable. And how am I forgetting the famous Irish actor he's on with, the guy that loved to come to Northeast Pennsylvania, Scranton. I'm blanking on it, but anyway, that's a movie you have to see. It's just cool, relaxing, understated humor, just outstanding. Yeah, wrestling Ernest Hemingway.
Yeah. Another one, Secondhand Lions. I don't know if you ever saw that.
I never saw the movie, but I play that quote all the time. We just played it earlier today, where he's, he grabs the young ruffian by the throat, and what an amazing body of work. Amazing.
Yep, great actor.
You never die when you leave that much behind, that's for sure.
Not at all.
All right, thank you, Steve. Appreciate it, man.
Right.
All right. My Picardo Jewelers watch tells me it's 11 o'clock. Do you know what that means? It's time for the news with Brian Hughes. We'll take a break for that, and then we'll be back with Rick Bigelow. it goes on and on and on. Never give up. Great good morning, everyone. 11:09 a.m. on my Ricardo Jewelers watch. This beautiful Tuesday, February 17, 2026. It's Mardi Gras. This is the Bob Cordaro Show, and I am he. And it's a big day to fight for America, defend our values. And with the help of our man, John Basiliga, and his great Serenity Care personal care community, the gold standard in senior care, the brave who have made us and kept us free. People like veterans we lost this year and in the past, but celebrate today, like Joseph Rosar, Scranton, William Freeman, Mountaintop, Thomas Roberts, Leda, Florida, but he was from Hanover, Peter Altavilla, he was from Burlington Township, and Captain Robert Latham, Bethlehem and Shepton. So with history, our great founding fathers, and the incomparable Constitution of the United States of America as our guides, let us continue today's battle. Gaveling back to order this meeting of the Club for Common Sense after that brief news adjournment. And yes, indeed, we are back. Somebody said, Bob, I saw you and Rusty Fender Sunday morning, and it was hard to contain you, but you were both great. Yeah, that's if you look up Shadow Steel, the Saturday Night at the Oldies, Saturday Night Live at the Oldies, you'll find us on YouTube and elsewhere. It's on all platforms, the little interview we did with him. And it was fun. It really was. Somebody else texting in, just listening to the Latham segment. Couldn't be moved and more proud of our veterans in this country, from our man Gene. I think that's Gene Barrett, my buddy. Somebody says, I'm reminded of the Billy Madison movie where he answers a question and the narrator says, we are now more dumb for listening to you. Yes, that's whenever you listen to AOC. Yeah. Cabinet guy, after listening to AOC, says, how do these idiots get voted in? Oh, and she's being promoted for president. She went to the Munich Security Conference, by the way, specifically prepared by Bernie Sanders' foreign policy people. And that was her response on Taiwan. William says, your audience would appreciate learning the difference between fascism and communism. We've got to have that discussion. I agree. I can't have it now because I got Rick Bigelow on history momentarily. Somebody else, hey, Bob, Duval literally ran into us early 2000s in Vegas, ran into us on the casino floor. He was wasted. By the time I realized who it was, the security guys got to him. That's cabinet guys' experience. Another, loved Secondhand Lions. Great movie. Thanks for playing that excerpt from the movie. Isn't that a great one? Bob Robert Duvall played Lucky Ned Pepper in True Grit with John Wayne. I did. Wow, I did. As Johnny Carson was, I did not know that. Yeah, Bob, I would like to see AOC debate Marco Rubio. I know. That's the talent of the Democrat Party. Unbelievable. Somebody else, Robert Duvall played a great role as an attorney in the movie Civil Action. That's another awesome. I couldn't find the clip I was looking for. When he said, basically, if he says, object, object, object. If you fall asleep and you wake up in the middle of a trial, object. Somebody says, I've also saw Duvall in an episode of The Twilight Zone. And someone else, thankfully, reminding me, Wrestling with Ernest Hemingway. It was with Richard Harris, the late, great Richard Harris, who loved Scranton, loved Jason Miller. Yeah, love it, love it. Anyway, we'll take a. I'm going to get back to some texts, but we are blessed to have our man Rick Bigelow in the house because we want to discuss, and it's very important that we do, Iwo Jima. And here he is, Rick Bigelow. How are you, my friend?
Doing great, Bob. How about you?
I'm great. Well, this campaign was from February 15th to March 26th, 1945. Take us there.
Yep, 81 years ago, Battle of Iwo Jima, And, there have been a lot of really terrible and horrible battles during World War II, but I think the battle at Iwo Jima was, if not the worst, it's certainly among the worst. So by November of 44, we'd taken the Gilberts, Marshalls, Marianas, and the Carolines, and MacArthur had landed at Leyte Gulf and was in the process of taking the Philippines. So we were closing in on Japan. Now, when we took the Marianas, that was important because they were only about 1,500 miles from Tokyo, and that meant that our B-29 bombers could take off from Guam, Saipan, and Tinian and bomb the Japanese home islands and make it back in one piece. One of the problems was the fighter cover only went about halfway, so the last half of the run in and out of Japan, we had no fighter cover for the B-29s. So we looked at the map and we saw these little islands, the volcano islands, of which Iwo Jima was the biggest, and we decided we needed to take them so we could have fighter squadrons based on Iwo Jima, and then we could have fighter coverage all the way to Japan and back for our B-29s. So in August of 1944, we started limited bombing and naval bombardment of Iwo Jima. And at this point in time, the Japanese knew that sooner or later we were going to attack Iwo Jima. So they sent Lieutenant General Kurabayashi and told him to build up fortifications on Iwo Jima. So they evacuated all the civilians. There was civilians who were working in sulfur mines and also in the sugar plantations there. They evacuated all of them and started to build a series of interlocking canals and ditches and internal bunkers and big pillboxes and so on and so forth. And they did that for 8 months. They also built 2 airstrips and were building a third when the invasion started. So they knew we were coming. They sent one of their best generals. He didn't expect to come back home. He thought he was going to die there. In fact, he sent a letter to all the soldiers on Iwo Jima saying, it is your duty to the emperor and to your ancestors to stay until you're killed and make sure you kill at least 10 Marines before they kill you. So it was pretty high stakes at that point in time. So Iwo Jima is about halfway between the Marianas and the Japanese home islands. It's about 750 miles from the home islands. Iwo Jima basically is 8 square miles, and it means Sulphur Island in Japanese. And much of the island is black volcanic ash, which is very loose, very hard to get a grip on if you're trying to go up the mountains or trying to go up the hills and trying to get off the beach because there's this black volcanic ash all over the place. Mount Suribachi, which is an extinct volcano on the southwestern tip of the island, dominates the island, and the Japanese had built all kinds of fortifications and all kinds of tunnels and storage spaces and whatnot into Mount Suribachi. So about 9 weeks before the invasion, on December 8th of 1944, we started bombardment. The bombardment was a step up from what we'd been doing for the past several months. We knew that the closer we got to Japan, the harder the Japanese were going to fight. So by the time we invaded, the Japanese had 21,000 well dug in and fortified Army and Navy troops on the island, 23 tanks and 900 artillery pieces. They had every inch of the island pre-sighted with artillery pieces and machine guns and tanks and so on. And lots of the tanks, they just covered them up to the turrets and used them as stationary artillery pieces. So we had the 5th Amphibious Corps under Lieutenant General Holland M. Smith, and whose nickname the Marines called him Howlin' Mad Smith. The 3rd, 4th, and 5th Marine Divisions, and eventually the Army's 147th Infantry Regiment came in. So altogether, we had about 110,000 Marines, soldiers, and sailors. We had over 500 ships, small craft, gunboats, battleships, cruisers, aircraft carriers, landing craft, et cetera, that were going to participate in the invasion. We started 3 days of intense naval and air bombardment, which began on February 15th, 1945. Our planners said it was going to take about a week for us to take the island. The Japanese were so well dug in that our aerial reconnaissance didn't pick it up. Of course, we couldn't pick it up because it was all underground, and the tunnels and trenches were really well hidden. So on February 19th, the Marines land on the eastern shore and are immediately bogged down in the volcanic ash. And the Japanese only provided light fire initially. They waited until we got an awful lot of the Marines on the beach, and of course we started to move off the beach, and that's when they opened up with what can only be described as withering fire. And of course, our Marines were having a tough time getting purchase on the ground because of the volcanic ash.
Hey, Rick Bigelow, we're going to take a break, hear from our great sponsors, and then we're going to come back and continue this discussion regarding Iwo Jima, an incredible battle. We'll take a break and be back. Rick Bigelow is our guest. Iwo Jima is the subject. Steely Dan, Murph says this date 1973. They moved up to number 6 with their hit Doing It Again. And a year before, on the same date, this date, President Richard Nixon leaves the White House with wife Pat on his historic trip to China. Well, Rick Bigelow is with us, and we are talking about the incredible conquest of Iwo Jima during World War II. Rick, continue. We're on this. We're getting withering fire. In fact, we had a 100-year-old veteran, Tony Julian, on this show several years ago. He's since passed, sadly, and also on my television show. And he was wounded on Iwo Jima. He described it in frightening detail, what he saw and what he experienced. So continue, Rick.
Well, one of the first objectives was to take Mount Suribachi, which was the extinct volcano, and it rose to about 550 feet. So the Japanese could see everything from Mount Suribachi, so we had to take that out. And of course, they had it heavily fortified with all kinds of gun emplacements and internal caves that they used for barracks and hospitals and everything like that. So that was our first objective, was to get Mount Suribachi. We thought we'd be able to do it in a day or two, but it actually took us 4 days. So by the 23rd of February, which was 4 days after we landed, the Marines finally made it to the top of Mount Suribachi, and that's where the iconic flag raisings took place. The first flag raising was a small American flag, and as soon as that flag went up, most of the Marines and the ships out in the ocean saw the flag go up, and there was all kinds of jubilation and celebration, and ships were blowing their klaxon horns and so on and so forth. And it seemed like this is a major point, and taking the rest of the island was going to be easy. That couldn't have been further from the truth. Yeah. And we had another 5 weeks of brutal fighting to take the rest of the island. And of course, once we took Suribachi, you'd think maybe they didn't have the observation anymore, but they had a bunker way on the northern end of the island that provided good observation for the rest of the island. So we take Suribachi.
Rick, was Suribachi critical militarily, or was it just something that was so visible and so obvious that you had to make it a goal?
It was critical militarily for two reasons. One is observation, because they could see everything we were doing, and they could see, way out into the fleet out in the ocean. The second thing was they had a lot of artillery pieces up there, and they could basically hit just about everything on the island from Mount Suribachi. So it wasn't just symbolic; it was critical to get it. And I think one of the things that's important about Iwo Jima is every inch of the island was the front lines. The field hospitals, several of the field hospitals were hit by Japanese artillery and mortar fire. And something like of the 6,800 who perished on Iwo Jima, something like 200 Navy corpsmen, doctors, medical personnel, etc., were killed because the field hospitals could be hit by the Japanese artillery. So it wasn't the type of thing where if you ran into a tough situation, you could withdraw and fresh troops would be brought in, because no matter where you were subject to machine gun and artillery fire from the Japanese. So it was a tough situation. So like I said, they had about a month more to go to take the rest of the island. And because of the interlocking bunkers and the interlocking fields of fire with the artillery and the machine guns, every step forward meant that you had the possibility of being hit. Often the Marines would clear a pillbox or a bunker, and they'd think it was benign, And then a few hours later, the Japanese would come through the tunnels and reoccupy the bunker or the pillbox, and they'd shoot at the Marines from the rear. So they had to be very careful what they did. And, they basically had to have eyes, their head on a swivel, to look behind them and in front of them all the time. Lots of Japanese who were wounded pretended to be dead. And when the Marines approached, they would explode a grenade and kill the Marines. So it took another month, basically, after we took Suribachi, and most of the fatalities and the wounded happened in this month period. Iwo Jima was declared secure on March 26th, and one of the things that was happening was the word was slowly getting back to the United States, back to the mainland, about how difficult the fighting was on Iwo Jima and how many casualties there were. And so we announced that the island was secure on March 26th, and the Marines were saying, well, it isn't secure. We've still got a lot of fighting and dying going on here. But I think from a big picture perspective, it was important to show that we had won that. So even though we said we had won on March 26th and taken the island, there were still thousands of Japanese in caves and tunnels and bunkers. The Army's 147th Regiment spent the next 3 months rooting them out, and amazingly, the last two Japanese soldiers surrendered in 1949, which is almost 4 years after the war ended. I mean, it sounds fantastic, but they had so much food and water stored deep in the bunkers and the caves that they could hold out, plus what they would steal from the Americans. Amazing. So the casualties were just stunning. 6,800 U.S. fatalities, mostly Marines, but also, like I said, some 200 Navy corpsmen, doctors, and other medical personnel were killed, and 20,000 wounded in action. The casualty rates for all Marines on Iwo was about 30%. For the rifle companies, the frontline grunts, it was closer to 70%. 18,000 Japanese killed and missing in action, and only about 200 POWs. It's the first time in the Pacific campaign that there were more U.S. casualties, total killed and wounded, than Japanese, but of course there were far more Japanese killed in action. 27 Medals of Honor were awarded on Iwo Jima, 22 Marines and 5 Navy corpsmen. So was it worth it? Well, the fighting was still going on. Damaged B-29s and others low on fuel landed in Iwo. Eventually over 1,000, and there may have even been more, damaged and low fuel B-29s landed on the island. There has been controversy over the years of whether or not it was necessary. I think it probably was, because now we could have fighter coverage, because they immediately sent fighter squadrons to Iwo, and those fighters could escort the B-29s all the way into Japan and back. Plus, we knocked out their radar. So one thing for sure, Iwo was not large enough to be the main staging base for assault of the Japanese home islands. The Navy found another staging island, which was Okinawa. Okinawa would probably be tougher than Iwo Jima. So that's basically it. One of the most savage and iconic battles in Marine Corps history.
That's a perfect description. Savage and iconic simultaneously. Rick Bigelow, thank you so much. And thanks for, he's putting 2-hour lectures and he sneaks them in a half hour with breaks. So we appreciate it, my friend.
Glad to do it, Bob.
Always a pleasure. Rick Bigelow on Iwo Jima, veteran himself. Father was a veteran, patent attorney extraordinaire. We'll take a break. We'll be back. It's the Bob Cordaro Show. Our veterans tribute this hour and every hour, this day and every day. Brought to you by our man, John Basiliga. Featuring today his great Serenity Care personal care community. 4 locations. Jessup in the Mid-Valley section of Lackawanna County. Old Forge, Wyoming, Kingston. Dementia Care Services in their Mid-Valley, Jessup, and Kingston locations. All of these facilities have been completely and lovingly renovated because John wants the best for our citizens. He will not accept second place. That's why Serenity Care is the gold standard for senior care in Northeast Pennsylvania. Thomas Roberts, he was just 71 when he passed January 22nd. He was from Deltona, Florida. Born in Wilmington, Delaware, he attended Hanover Area High School, then went on to serve all of us in the United States Navy. He worked with Southeast Modular until his retirement. Enjoyed spending time with his family, watching the Vegas Raiders, listening to the Beatles, going to the beach, and going to see a local band called Black Velvet. Thomas was a Christian. He's lovingly remembered by his daughters, Holly Ann, Rebecca, and Jacqueline, his mother, who survives him, Teresa Roberts Fox, sisters, 8 grandchildren, 5 great-grandchildren, as well as numerous nieces, nephews, and other family members. Thomas Roberts. Peter Altavilla. He was from Burlington Township. We lost him January 6th at Cooper Hospital in Camden, Jersey. He was just 66. Born in Levittown, PA, longtime resident of Burlington, both in childhood and then again in his later life. He served this country honorably for 21 years in the United States Army, 1983 to 2004, retiring at the rank of Lieutenant Colonel. He continued to serve this country as a civilian, working as an executive-level program manager in the defense industry, first at Allianz Science and then at Huntington Ingalls Industry. He was a scoutmaster with the Boy Scouts, instrumental in the founding of Drexel Alumni Veterans Network. He loved traveling, reading, collecting models, and other memorabilia. He loved the outdoors. He loved Stewart's root beer. Survived by his wife, Babs, Barbara, his son, daughter-in-law, and other family members. Interred with military honors at Fort Indiantown Gap National Cemetery. Peter Altavilla. Our great veterans this hour, brought to you by John Basiliga and Basiliga Hospitality. I'm sorry, Serenity Care. Storm Tracker 16 forecast from meteorologist Joe Snedeker, brought to you by our friends at Montage Mountain. It is the perfect week to ski, snowboard, or rent a tent and hang out in a fire pit. Love it. Today, clouds and breaks of sun, chance of a flurry in the northern tier. 48 degrees, 43 outside the studios as I speak. Tonight, cloudy down to 35. Wednesday, clouds with rain showers, possibly mixed with snow in spots, 45. Thursday, partly sunny, 45 as well. Perfect week to go to Montage Mountain. Only 11 minutes in that movie, the late, great Robert Duvall. Well, you hear this song, you know what this is, you know what this means. It means it's time for Tina Morocco, Sotheby's International in Naples, Florida. I mean, you're following Iwo Jima and Robert Duvall. You are in high company, Tina.
Oh my gosh. Well, I'm glad to brighten things up a little bit, right?
Yes, indeed. All right, so tell me, we did Estero last time we spoke. What else? What do we have on our plate today?
So today I'm just in downtown Naples scheduling showings for tomorrow. My office is on Fifth Avenue in downtown Naples.
One of the greatest places on the planet, Fifth Avenue in Naples. Unbelievable.
It really is. But I was just thinking, over the weekend, Dominic and I were at the Chubb Classic at the Ritz-Carlton, the Tiburon Golf Course.
Oh, wow.
And so that was an awesome time.
Oh, man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Everything goes on. Like, people don't appreciate Naples is not just Fifth Avenue. Naples is massive.
No. It's huge. And, sporting events are huge here. Like we talked about baseball before, and we talked about golf, but also pickleball is huge down here. And we actually have coming up the U.S. Open Pickleball Championship.
Really?
In April. Yeah. And so you think about how big could that possibly be? Well, last year there were about 55,000 fans. Pickleball fans. There are 3,500 players from all 50 states and 40 countries that come here. So pickleball is huge around the world, right? But also Naples is kind of the hub of everything.
But everybody, I think half of them are using it as an excuse to go to Southwest Florida and check out the weather.
100%.
I'm such a dynamic area. You keep pointing out the things that go. There's always something going on in Southwest Florida. Right.
And so I was thinking about too, like some of the things that people ask me when they're starting to look for homes in Southwest Florida. It's kind of overwhelming, right? Just the process, like how do I buy a vacation home? Where do I start? And obviously people start looking on Zillow or Realtor.com. And connecting with an agent is, the easiest thing to do because agents, I do a lot of virtual tours, especially this time of year. Virtual tours meaning that if somebody sees a property on Zillow, I can go into the property and FaceTime them or do a video for them so they can see, like walk through it with me, ask me questions about it that you can't see online. And I also do a lot of virtual tours through communities. So not just what does the home look like, but what does the neighborhood look like? Inside the gates, a lot of it. So that's where you get started.
I think, I know it'll be a refrain that we will talk about every time I speak with you. Seriously, if you're even curious, if you're interested, seriously, you get in touch. You go moroccotina@gmail.com, email her, or go to tinamorocco.com, MURACCO. Start with an agent you could trust and just get the process started.
Yeah, that's right, Bob. And, I cover Southwest Florida, but people are looking everywhere, and I have contacts all over the country, but especially all over Florida. So if you're not looking in my area, it's very likely that I know somebody in their area that you're looking at, and I can put you in touch with them.
And that's the big deal. And it is literally the smartest place to start.
Yeah, definitely. So hope to see you soon in Florida, Bob, but we'll be up there in a few weeks.
All right. Well, it's one way or the other. One way or the other. I look forward to it. Tina Morocco, Sotheby's International on Fifth Avenue in Naples. Really the place to be. She is Southwest Florida. Thank you, Tina. Always a pleasure.
Thanks, Bob. Take care.
All right. We'll take a break. Bob Cordaro, WILK. We'll be back. Hey, don't tell us we can't groove in the 2000s. Nickelback, number one rock charts hit with Animals. This date, 2006. I like some Nickelback. By the way, we're gonna finish with our man Larry from Plymouth's favorite band and one that we really enjoy, Disturbed. Their version of Sound of Silence. It's just awesome. Absolutely awesome. Hey, let's go. We're going to do lightning round, guys, because we're out of time. So everybody I call on, I know you can hear me. We've only got 30 seconds or so for each of you. Let's fire away. Our man Bob Bolas, and I know you've been to Iwo Jima. Isn't it amazing?
Yes, sir. How you doing, Bobby?
Great. Talk to me.
I've been there three times. I've been there 3 times.
Well,
I've been on Mount. Well, I've been to Mount Suribachi. Right? Pardon?
You saw the site from Suribachi? Wow.
Yep. So I've been there 3 different times, and I've been on my mission to recover the remains of Sergeant William Ganoss, who filmed the flag raising on Mount Suribachi.
And you haven't given up, have you?
No, I have not. In fact, I talked to Rob Bresnahan last week about possibly having him join in the mission with me to recover the remains. There's Sergeant Ganoss and 2 other Marines that went down into a spider hole off 362 Able, and they're still entombed there. And it's been my mission, my personal mission, to bring them all home.
Amazing. Well, Bob, thank you for sharing that with us. We do appreciate it, my friend. Hey, let's go to Larry from Plymouth.
Bob.
Hey, Larry. We got to
go. Hi, Bob.
quick.
I should have had my song On the Dark Side by Eddie and the Cruisers.
Well, you could switch it. You just tell the Bulldog, and you'll get a new theme song.
Okay, but Bob, here's the thing. I don't know if you remember Robert Duvall in True Grit.
No, and somebody mentioned
that.
Okay,
at the end of the movie, John Wayne was after him and his gang. They're on this big field, on each end of the field. And John Wayne says to Robert Duvall, Ned, I'm going to take you in for trial or kill you right now. And Robert Duvall says, that's pretty big talk for a one-eyed fat man.
That was his line.
And then John Wayne says, fill your hand, you son of a bitch.
Hilarious.
And Glenn Campbell was in that movie, too.
Duvall left us one hell of a legacy.
Oh, him and Gene Hackman.
Hey, Larry, we're playing Disturbed.
Okay.
But we got to go, my man.
Okay.
Kevin, you've been beyond patient. Thank you. He's in Duryea. Fire away, man. Kevin. Kevin, I hear breathing. I know you're alive. All right, we'll put you back on hold. We'll see if we can grab you again. Bill from Pittston, we got about 30 seconds, my friend.
All right. Yeah, I called Ocasio-Cortez's office, and I said, Alex, I just witnessed your brilliant display of intelligence on international events, and I want to remind you, the only reason you got elected was because people will vote for a D on a milk bottle. So says Nancy Pelosi. I guess that makes you a milk bottle. And I said, then I called Waltz's office. I said, Governor, don't demand that the people pay, for the damage done by your terrorists. Why don't you just dip into your defrauding fund and pay it with a personal check? Either that or go to the Somalian buddies you have and let them cover the damage.
Yeah. Crazy stuff. They're all nuts, Bill. We got to keep that in mind. Treating them like they're normal people doesn't work. They're not.
You got it, Bob.
Thank you, my friend.
You have the best show on radio.
All right, man. Thank you. Hey, as Disturbed continues with Sound of Silence, we got to wrap it up with a final mention of our veterans brought to you by our man John Basiliga and Serenity Care. And thank you to Tina Morocco, Muracco. Look her up. You got to go to a trusted agent if you want to move into Florida, and she can handle the whole state. She's the starting point. Thomas Roberts, Leda, Florida, but Hanover Township. Joseph Rosar, Scranton. William Freeman, Mountaintop. Peter Altavilla, Burlington Township. And we could have done 3 shows on the Latham family, but today we focused on Captain Robert Latham died while doing an Army Ranger test back in 2021 at age 32. Our great veterans. Guys, it's been super back with you. Love it. I got a funeral for another great veteran that I'm attending as soon as I leave here. And that's the late, great Paul Wylam, a Marine. By the way, Republican women of Luzerne County will also have a petition signing at the Wilkes-Barre Township Fire Hall tonight, starting at 6:30. Stacy Garrity and the gang will be there. They're coming down after the Arcaro and Janelle event in Lackawanna County. So if you're from Lackawanna County, Arcaro and Janelle, right after that, starting at 6:30, they're down at Wilkes-Barre Township. Get there. Get involved. Picardo Jewelers watch tells me it's noon. I got to go. God willing, I'll see you tomorrow. But for now, we gavel to a close this meeting of the Club for Common Sense.